such a time as this.
And welcome back to For Such a Time as This, the place where there is no such thing as a silent witness. Just recently, we had a video go viral, just under 2 million views. And for our efforts, let me get it right. For our efforts, we were fact-checked. I guess we've made it big time now. We've been fact-checked by Snopes. Snopes had the audacity to fact-check us. We got fact-checked. Does Kamala Harris want to legalize prostitution? For such a time as this, stance is still yes, she does. She absolutely does. And we're going to go through a few lines in the fact-checking. We're going to go through a few lines to show you that the fact-checkers need to be fact-checked. But before I even do that, let's set the table. The crowd that thinks that your feelings determine your sex, that's the crowd that wants to fact check us. The people who believe it doesn't matter, how can I say this? It doesn't matter what type of plumbing you have. Your feelings determine whether you are a male or a female. The crowd that lives in a world in which they think it is totally okay for a woman to sell her body for money. The crowd that thinks it's perfectly okay doesn't indicate a lack of morals or lack of feeling or lack of mental clarity or lack of spirituality, that a woman can sleep, sexually be with a man, 20 men a night, 20 men in one night. That's okay with them. That's the crowd who are now going to be arbiters of truth. I find that ironic. All right, anyway, here's what the article says. The article comes out against us. Says this. When talking about Kamala Harris and the legalization and the decriminalization, it says this. However, decriminalization is not the same as legalization. Legalization, the legalization of something. Decriminalization is not the same as legalization. Well, explain to me what exactly you mean. Because I will say this, and let me be clear. If you're going to take a crime and lessen the penalty, it's still a crime. You're just lessening the penalty. I agree. That's not the legalizing. It's not the legalization of an act, right? So if you take it from a fine of $1 million down to a fine of $5, down to a fine of $1, it's still a crime. You just lessen the penalty. I agree. That's not the same thing as legalization. That's not what we're saying. Here's what we're saying. If you want to decriminalize something and remove all penalties, no jail time, in the case of prostitution, no jail, no citation, they won't even stop you. That, in essence, you may call it decriminalization. That is the legalization of prostitution. If you want to say no crime, no jail time, we'll just fine you and take you off the street that night. I get it. You're right. Not the same thing. That's not what Kamala Harris said, though. From what she is saying, I surmise, it seems like to me, not 100% sure, just 99.9% sure. She wants to remove all penalties. So here's what the writer in Snoop says. However, decriminalization is not the same as legalization. Please come on the show, explain to us what is the difference in this case. Here's what she said. Decriminalization involves removing criminal sanctions on an act or behavior, while legalization is the process of removing legal prohibitions against it. That's double talk. It depends on what you mean by removing criminal sanctions. If you remove all penalties, that is in essence a distinction without a difference. And then here's the thing that invalidates the rest of the article. Here's all you got to know. Here's what she says. Analysis interpreting Harris's shifting stance as an indicator that she may currently support some form of decriminalization, but the exact policies remain to be seen. If you don't know what the exact policies are, how can you say I'm wrong? And right here it says, in this sentence, under what's undetermined, if you don't know exactly what her policies are, if her policies are that all penalties, jail time and tickets and citations are removed from prostitution, then I'm right. If you don't know that, how are you going to fact check? I'm telling you, it seems to me she is removing all penalties from prostitution, which in essence, that decriminalization means legalization. She goes on in the article. She says this: Christian YouTube channel for such a time as this, that's us, Christian YouTube channel for such a time as this, and shared during the election season to support claims that Harris supported the legalization of prostitution. And that is our stance. That is our stance until she can clarify, nope, I don't want to remove all penalties. Then we'll say, yeah, you're right. It seems like she's saying remove all penalties. Goes on to say, we have learned that the answer, and here's what it says at the bottom of this paragraph, the next paragraph. We learned that the answer is complicated, right? Many readers asked whether it is true that Harris is in favor of legalizing prostitution. We learned that the answer is complicated. Whenever a liberal say the answer is complicated, they're about to lie to you. They're about to do double talk. They're about to do a two-step. They're about to dance and muddy the issue. It goes on. However, Pittman's analysis misrepresents Harris's stance on sex work. How do you know? You don't know what the exact policies are. If she wants to remove all penalties and all criminalization, nothing, tickets, crime, time, whatever, if she wants to remove all things, how do you know Pittman's wrong? You don't know that. You don't know that. Analysis misrepresents Harris's stance on sex work. Pittman claims that by legalizing prostitution, Harris is imagining an industry of prostitutes where people would not get harmed when the act of prostitution itself, he says, is inherently harming women. And we stand by it. When a woman goes out and sells her body to 20 men in one night for money, that is harming her. Her soul gets darker. Her self-worth plummets. I've dealt with that population. And this was a young lady who was a stripper, and I'm sure did some other things on the side. She was high. And you know what she told me? No one could do this and be in their right mind. Nobody could sell your body like this and not be high. They were all high. Yes, I stand by it. The very act of selling your body harms the woman. Yes, we stand by it. They go on and say this: decriminalization means that carrying out an act of behavior will no longer land that person with a jail sentence or a criminal record. That's what decriminalization means. Legalization, on the other hand, is the process of removing all legal prohibitions to that act or behavior. Same thing. Same thing. It depends on what you mean by decriminalization. To carry out an act or behavior that no longer lands that person in the jail sentence or a criminal record. If it also means they no longer get a ticket or a citation, that is the same as legalization. Sorry. Here's what it says. In the same interview, she addressed her work as the San Francisco District Attorney. I was advocating then that we have to stop arresting these prostitutes and instead go after the Johns and the pimps. We were criminalizing the women, but not the men who associated with it, who were making money off of it or profiting off of it. Now, watch this, and I'm going to end with this. Watch this. Here's what she says. I'll read it again. We were criminalizing the women, but not the men. No, she's talking about her time as DA in San Francisco, in California. No, we were not criminalizing the women and not the men. You were criminalizing the women and not the men. I wasn't the Attorney General of California. You were Senator Harris. You're still Senator. You're not Vice President yet. You were Senator Harris. I didn't criminalize the women. You did. What stopped you from going after the men? Why did we, as though we're all equal here? No, we're not all equal here. You were the Attorney General. Why didn't you go after the Johns? Why? We were criminalizing the women and not the men who were associated with it. The question is, Senator Harris, why didn't you go after the men? You were the Attorney General. The men with it who were making money off of it and profiting off of it. As far as I know, it's still illegal in California, and it was illegal when you were Attorney General. And so I end this video with this. Why, Senator Harris, were you not going after the Johns? Why? This is a Jesus moment. If you were catching the women in prostitution, you didn't catch them by themselves. There had to be a John with them. Why weren't you getting the Johns? Just asking. Just asking. And the person from Snopes who wanted to fact check me, fact check us here at For Such a Time as This, I invite you to come on and have a conversation about prostitution and your side of the aisle, your group, your people advocating women selling their bodies as though that's noble. That's sad. That's sad. That woman is not in her right mind. And who's harming the women? You are. Those of you encouraging it, you are. It's sad. And for the sake of the prostitution industry and the prostitutes, for the love of God, stop it.
For such a time as this.